I never thought I'd achieve what I did at that point.
Claire Duck is an elite distance runner who has represented Great Britain on multiple occasions, as well as captaining the GB team at the World Cross Country.
Do you think you might, be able to get that Great Britain vest? Have you thought about that? And I was like, I hadn't really thought about that, but maybe.
I've known Claire for a few years, but wanted to hear more about her personal journey to the heights of British running.
Yeah, I probably was quite hard on myself. That was all I ever wanted to achieve.
We even discussed the moments when Claire felt that she was completely done with her running.
I just thought, actually, I don't know if I really enjoy this anymore, so I just stopped running for maybe 2 years.
And we spoke about the accident on a day in 2015 that put Claire in hospital, and so nearly could have finished it all.
I don't remember what happened. I know what happened.
We've had a big update of the high-quality, durable and bright Jog On running kit, which you can find at thisisjogon.com, as well as our easy-to-use, effective training plans to get you to your next personal best at 5k, 10k or half marathon. Head to thisisjogon.com for more. So please, welcome to Jog On, Claire Duck. When you're running cross-country events at school, was there any sense in that moment of, I've got some ability here, like I'm good at this? Were you good within school?
I don't think I was brilliant at school. I did it because I liked sports, so I'd do lots of different sports. You'd play football for the school, hockey, tennis, netball, and then they'd get you to do cross-country, and then I went to the schools races because a few of us did. And I think I might have dropped out of one of them, didn't do great in another, and then I finally did well in one. I think I either won or was second.
Wow.
And that's when then I did the trials for the English schools and actually decided, maybe I could join a club, and York asked me to join, so...
Did you enjoy running at the time, or was it a bit of a drag in your feet, like, ugh?
No, I liked running. I did enjoy it. I think I did a biathlon, swimming and running at the swimming club where I was, so I did quite well at that, and I liked running. So I didn't ever think, I'll have like some kind of career in this, or I'll be a professional runner, but I just liked running.
Were you sporty all round, and did that carry on for a while, or quite quickly did you start to focus on the running a bit more?
No, I did other things. I still played hockey until I went to university, and I went to the hockey trials for university for about 4 hours before the cross-country trials for the university team. So then I wasn't sure which team I'd want to join. I was quite enjoyed the hockey as well, but I think they offered me the fourth team, so I decided that I was probably not going to do hockey, and then just got more involved in the running. So...
Is there a moment or a shorter period of time, for example, maybe one of the years in college, where you really started to take running a bit more seriously and think, I'm actually going to start to put my training in now, I've got some potential here? When is that moment when you start to think, okay, I think I could do quite well at this?
I think, because I went to York College, and one of the lecturers there ran for Nathmeyer Club there, and he said, you should get out running, and, he knew... I think he knew that I did run, so it was like, should get involved in running. And then we would do other sports at college, but I did sports science, a BTEC at college, so we were always fairly active. And then I just thought in my second year, that's when I started to actually train a few times a week and, do more than like a mile around the field at home or something. I was starting to do longer runs. I had run with York running club for a bit, Nestle Roundtree, so I was doing some running but hadn't really taken it that seriously. So I think in my second year of college I thought I might start doing a bit more with the encouragement of like York and my tutor that was from Nathmeyer. So then I started training more.
Is this mostly cross country at this point, or are you starting to do track training as well?
I had gone down to York to do a couple of track sessions. I did quite enjoy the track. You just feel like you're going a bit quicker. I enjoyed like the cross country as sort of trails, going off road. That was always what I enjoyed doing. And we lived in the countryside with my parents, so it was quite easy to go run around fields and stuff.
And at university, going on from college, university, you start to run a bit more. Is this kind of like a crescendo over time? The training becomes a bit more. Is it a steady build, or does it feel, when you look back, do you think, oh, it's quite quick actually that I started to get into that running? Once I'd got the bug, did it build quickly, or was it a slow progression?
I'd say over the first year at university, like I definitely started to build, but quite slowly. I probably was only running maybe 3 or 4 times a week. Some days I'd be like, oh, I'll have a day off because, I've run for a couple of days in a row. I probably only ran 4 or 5 days maximum. And I think it took probably till into the second year of uni when I thought, oh, maybe I'll do the longer runs on a Sunday, because I hadn't really done that before. So then I was running 5 days a week, and then I used to take a day off in the week to give myself a break. And then I think in my last year at uni, I started running 6 days because I just built it up slowly, had a bit more time when we were revising and things at uni. And then I started running more then, because I couldn't believe that I would be able to run that many days. But then it just sort of built up naturally, I suppose.
We often talk about the fact that you train more, you build up more, physically you start to get fitter. Mm-hmm. Is there a mental aspect? You started to get more confident in your own running, you started to believe in your own running a bit more. Is there some of that?
I think you do when you get fitter, because you realise it's not as painful and you can do more. So I think, you build up confidence just having got fitter and knowing that you can run further and quicker. And I did races through university, and you do the same races each year, like the relays and things, and then you'd get quicker. So you'd be like, oh, well, I feel more confident now. So I think it naturally does if you still get fitter.
If you can put yourself in the mindset back when you were at university, did you have big aspirations or goals, or do they come a bit later? How far reaching did you see yourself going? Were you quite reserved and thought, well, let's just see how it goes?
Yeah, I don't think at university I ever thought I would achieve what I have. I had no idea really. I wanted to improve, but I don't think I ever saw like that much in the future to think, oh, maybe I'll run at that elite level. I was really excited in my first year at uni when I got my Yorkshire vest, and I was like, I'm a proud Yorkshire person, so I always really wanted to do that, but I never thought I'd achieve what I did at that point. Even going to the States, I wasn't really sure that I would.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the States there. Let's talk about that. That's talk us through that happens. You got a scholarship at Chicago. How did that come about?
Somebody from Leeds University had already been to Chicago. They knew some of the coaches out there and had a good time and enjoyed it. So they said they were looking for people to go over. I'd just finished university, and I was working just as a secretary and not really enjoying it, not really knowing what I was going to do with my life or my career. So I thought, well, why not? What have I got to lose?
Was it a jump at this opportunity, or was there some reluctance? Where were you at that time?
There was reluctance. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the right thing for me. I had heard that other people sometimes hadn't had a great experience, and had been injured and things like that. So there was that. And I had started running well as well, like better. Things had improved, and I didn't know whether I should stay in Leeds and continue that training or whether I should give this a go.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, almost full-time training and running, maybe this will be a good opportunity for me to improve. So
you just don't know until you go. It could disrupt your training, or it could take you on a level. You don't know until you go.
Exactly. So I thought, well, I'll have to give it a go and see how it works out.
Yeah. And you went out there for 18 months in total?
Yeah, I did a master's in education because I only had 18 months to compete, because in America you have like 5 years, I think, from when you go to university to compete. So I only had that time where I could compete. So I went from the January to the August next year, and then did my master's while I was running. It was an interesting experience.
Yeah. It's a huge period of time, 18 months really, so it's too much for you to give all the details about. But all in all, what were the pros, what were the cons, if you could weigh it up?
Pros, you have good facilities. You get to travel, do a lot of races. You're well looked after with like kit and trainers, treatment if you need it. But the cons are that it's also very controlled. You don't have a lot of your own time. You have to fit everything around training. You kind of have to do what you're told.
Was that a shock, or did you know that might be the case going out there?
I didn't really know that would be that controlled. When you go to university here, we had a coach that would come to our sessions, but it was fairly relaxed, and you could adapt your own training, whereas there it was very much, this is what we're doing. Don't change it. And you raced a lot, so it's quite hard on the body. I found it was quite tough to do sort of 2 to 4 races on a weekend, every weekend. In cross country, we raced every other weekend, and track, it was sometimes every weekend. We were away quite a lot, so there's a lot of travel, and it was quite tiring.
Did you survive that? Did you pick up many injuries?
I had a possible stress response when I was out there in my foot, and I had a niggly hip, which I've sort of had issues with ongoing throughout my running. That was quite hard to deal with. I did get faster. I ran some faster times there than I was doing, but not significantly. I've run faster since I've come home. But unfortunately, I got home from America and just sort of fell out of love with the sport. And
why? What makes you think that happened?
Well, I moved home. I was sort of away from a lot of people that were training. I didn't really have any groups near me. And I thought, this is not going quite as well as I wanted it to when I came back. I thought, I'd be fit, I'd enjoy my running. Now I'm back home, but it just didn't work out. And I just thought, actually, I don't know if I really enjoy this anymore. So I just stopped running for maybe 2 years.
The slight controlling of the life and the training that you found out in America, do you think that's a slight sort of scholarship mentality? Like, we've paid for you to be out here, so maybe we own you is a bit strong, but you are something that they've invested in. Is that part of the thinking? Oh yeah,
definitely. That's what they said to me.
Interesting,
like, yeah. We paid for you to be here. When I'd changed sessions occasionally, if I trained, most of the time I trained with a group, but if I had a class, then I'd occasionally trained on my own. And if I changed it, I would, if I told them that I changed it, they wouldn't be very happy about it.
Yeah, interesting.
Which I was used to doing before then, so I wouldn't have expected anybody to not be very pleased about that. But it was quite controlling in that way. You had to do as you were told, which I think in America, like the way that their students are, and they come through like college and into the university, they're used to that. That's sort of what they do.
They know that more.
They know that, whereas we come from slightly different sort of backgrounds, I guess. Our running is quite different to theirs. They run in college and in university, and then a lot of them stop, whereas we just expect to go to uni, run and carry on. We have other races that we can do, whereas a lot of them, if they don't go professional, don't always really have other races that they can do, other teams. I know they have teams and running clubs out there, but I don't think it's quite set up like ours is.
Did you find the control difficult in the beginning and then learn to adapt to it? Or would you say throughout the 18 months that was always a struggle from start to finish?
I think I learned to adapt to it. You have to, otherwise you wouldn't really enjoy being there at all. Yeah. So I got used to it, and I did enjoy a lot of it, and like the experiences are great. I ran in some good races. I may not have run super fast, but I had some good races. I still won races and enjoyed the training. So it's not all negative. It's probably a good split.
So for 50-50 experience, and it would really depend on the experiences and depend on the person. It would be a very individual experience as to whether someone may or may not get on with it.
Yeah, I think it doesn't work for everyone. Some people really like that sort of environment, but maybe not so much me.
So moving along the Claire Duck timeline, you're now back from the University of Chicago. Your coach, who you had a fantastic relationship with and trained you for many, many years, Mike Baxter. When do you and how do you meet Mike?
Mike was coaching one of my friends in Leeds. When I'd come back from America, I'd briefly had a stint where I was training up in the Northeast. And Lindsay Dunn, who's passed away now, but he was really good friends with Mike. And when I told him I was stopping running because I just wasn't enjoying it, he said, if you ever come back to running, you should speak to Mike Baxter. I thought, I'm going to give this another try. So I got myself back into running, into a reasonable shape. And then I approached Mike and said, would you help me? And he said, yeah, write down what training you're doing. And I did. And he was like, I can't believe you're doing all this training like this. So he stripped everything back and we started to plan a more sensible program. And
with some specific targets, distances, certain vests, any kind of achievements you were aiming for at the time when you planned that out?
I don't think we actually set out any specific targets. I think down the line I had thought, maybe I could target an England vest. But when we first started back, I just wanted to be competitive fit again. Yeah.
And maybe to find your love for it again.
Yeah. I wanted to enjoy racing and competing again. Mike was really encouraging. He's always been really supportive. We worked a lot of things around like my job. When I came back to Leeds, I was a radiographer, so I had night shifts to do and things, and Mike scheduled things around it so that I had recovery time and then we could still get sessions in. And I think that worked well, that he's fairly relaxed, although, has things that he'll set out. Like we have specific things that we would always aim to do in the training, but he was fairly relaxed. Like if I said, I'm just too tired to do this, I'm just going to go for a run, he'd be like, that's fine.
Which sounds like that's something that locks up much better with how you operate. It's the opposite end of the spectrum from what you experienced in America, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you couldn't say, I'm a bit tired, I'm not going to do this session. They'd be like, well, no, you have to do this session. Whereas Mike be like, that's fine, don't worry about it. We'll work around it. And that worked well for me.
That approach seems to factor in the mental state of the athlete more. Like what good is it if you're tired, don't want to run, grumpy, you've just done 5 days in a row running, like it's okay to have it feels like for me, from what I'm hearing, that just psychologically, that sets you up slightly better for the next week, for example.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Mike was always really conscious of like how I was feeling, and like the further into like our relationship, we had a really good relationship, and he understood, like, and I felt like I could talk to him about things if I was stressed or if I had a lot on at work, and I was just going to need a bit of time off, especially during things like COVID and like these sorts of things. He was really supportive. So he knew that some days I had quite a stressful day at work, and he was like, if you want to change things or don't want to do it, just tell me. Like he was just always about just being honest. Like don't just pretend you've done it, or don't tell him. He wanted me to talk to him about it. So I think that's how our relationship worked really well. I knew I could speak to him and he wouldn't be like, oh, why haven't you done this? He was never like that.
You also had a bit of a system, which is quite a nice system, it sounds like. Of course, you have to find a coach that's willing to do this, but you would sort of send him what you'd done, and then Mike would kind of log what you'd done, and that kind of took some of the weight off your shoulders, is it fair to say?
Yeah, I never really wrote down my training.
Yeah, I mean, that's great.
I couldn't tell you all the things I'd done.
But that worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just message Mike, tell him what I'd done. And Mike was very old school, so he wrote everything down on paper, and he could probably still show you all of these logs.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating.
He'd say if Claire said she felt rubbish today, or wind was bad, or maybe Claire had a tantrum and threw her shoes down on the floor. Mike would write everything down so that he would be able to look back at it. He would have like a little black book that he'd write in when we were doing reps and things. So he was really good for that, but I couldn't tell you what I'd done or how fast I'd run those reps really before. I would probably have a rough idea, but yeah, he kept all of those logs.
Looking back now, 2010 I had down as when you and Mike kind of first started working together. It feels like a really significant turning point. It's kind of really what built the Claire Duck story. It feels like, I don't know if that's a fair comment, Mike is a really significant part of your training, and it feels like everything lifts from, well, you meet Mike and that's where you kind of get a bit of lift off and things really start to excel. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You have certain relationships throughout jobs and whatever, and you meet somebody and things just work well. And we found a really good way to work together, and he helped encourage me and supported me, and I felt like I was in the right company there. So yeah, from there things just progressed. It did take me time to build up my training and to find out what works after stopping running and doing a lot in America. So finding out what worked best for me. I couldn't run twice a day. I found that too much for me. I cycled to work instead to take off the pressure. So we found quite a good balance, but it took a few years to build up to, thinking actually, might be quite good here. Maybe I can do more than this.
We spent months putting together the Jog On training plans to give runners the best chance of getting to their next running goal. The plans are easy to use, clear, and available for 5K, 10K, or half marathon. Have a look for yourself at thisisjogon.com. If I can jump you forward to sort of early 2015, things are going really well. You're building towards National Cross. You actually, many people won't know this, but you actually then have an incident where you actually have a cycling accident, which really sets you back. It's probably one of, I think in an interview you described it as, I think they asked you for high moments and low moments. You described it as one of the lower moments in your career, of course. Can you just sort of talk us through what happened that day and the setback that caused with the cycling accident?
Yeah, I was running really well. I was fit at the time. I think I'd come sixth at Northerns, and this was probably, you have maybe a couple of weeks till Nationals, and we'd hoped for a good high finish at Nationals. And then I was heading to work. I cycled to work, still do, and I don't remember what happened. I know what happened, but I cycled into the back of a Yorkshire water van that was parked half on the road, half on the path, legally parked. We don't think I saw it because I didn't break my neck, which was good. I broke the transverse process of my T-spine and my shoulder blade and my hand, and hit my lungs pretty hard. So that was pretty painful. I woke up in the ambulance. Luckily, I was wearing a helmet because I think it probably saved my life.
Wow.
I was going down a hill, so probably between 25, 30 miles an hour potentially. I was going quite quick. And yeah, I woke up properly in hospital.
Just confusion, like what's happened? How am I here? It must be like a surreal experience.
A very odd thing. Yeah, you don't ever expect that that's going to happen. I'd like to think I'm fairly careful and I'm quite good on my bike, but for whatever reason, I don't think I was looking. But you just don't think something like that's going to happen. Yeah, really strange. On my way to work. I mean, I work at the hospital, so I got there eventually.
Yeah, well, just in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know what happened exactly, but we don't think I was looking.
And the last thing you remember is just cycling?
I remember leaving my house, but that whole incident is blanked. For whatever reason, in my brain either decided it wasn't going to remember it or, I lost that bit. So, which is probably quite a good thing because I imagine it was probably not very pleasant.
Exactly.
I don't remember the pain until I actually got sat up in hospital and realised I was in quite a bit of pain. Yeah,
you don't get the residual trauma of the moment, I guess. That's
no.
one thing at least. But of course, doing this, you spend a few nights in hospital. It's no doubt, it's a huge setback for running. When does that sink in that, well, I'm not going to be training for a while?
Well, leaving hospital, I guess. And I mean, Mike had come in to see me and some friends, my family. But I think when I left, I thought, actually, this could be a while before I can properly run again. I was quite sore. I had bad whiplash. My knee was really painful. It took probably 3 weeks before I thought I'm going to try and jog again. And then I think from the accident, a few things were out of line and then sort of got a few shin problems. And it probably took a few months before I felt like I would actually be able to to carry on running properly. Like I could build up my training enough.
In a weird way, sort of something born new out of the ashes, let's say, of a small disaster, does it change your mindset? Does it give you a determination to push forward and think, I was really getting somewhere there. I had big races coming up. I was really getting in shape. Do you kind of have that mindset of, I want to get back? Does it push you on?
Oh, yeah, I definitely wanted to. I knew I was in really good shape, and Mike also knew I was in good shape and had hoped for good things. And once the initial aches and pains and things had settled, and I knew that there wasn't too much serious damage, I could get back into training again, and knowing that, actually I can do this. And I think it did spur me on. I definitely wanted to get better, and to see what I could do. You definitely think, life's too short. Got to give this a go,
thing, Yeah.
And it might seem quite dramatic, but I really thought actually
it could have been so much worse.
It could have been, yeah. So, well, actually, I've got a good chance here. I'm not, I can still run. So I can give it a go. Yeah. I might have done a lot worse, so I was quite lucky, I think.
In a funny way, you sort of almost owe it to yourself at that point. That because of that, in a strange way, you owe it to yourself to find out how good you can be at this thing that you've clearly shown some strong potential at.
Yeah, no, I felt like I needed to give it a good go, and maybe it made me more determined.
Did it feel like a complete reset because you were able to start jogging some weeks later? Do you feel like you managed to catch it before you got too unfit again? How long did it take to really build back to where you were pre-accident, do you think?
I think it probably took a few months, maybe out into the autumn time when things were starting back up again. I think I might have done the Yorkshire Champs on the track in summer just to see where I was at. And I think I won that, so it'd gone well, and I was like, okay, maybe, I'm getting back to where I was, or at least like near there. And then going back into the winter, I was like, right, this is when I'm quite determined to see what I can do.
So we skip forward a year from early 2015, the accident. You rebuild, fitness is coming back, new determination, sort of a new duck is born, if you like, who's focused on achieving some big things. And maybe one of those achievements that appears is getting your first England best, which happened at Antrim. Talk me through that. What was that like? Did it feel like an honour? Was it surreal to finally run in an England best? Did you feel like you'd finally ticked off something you've been thinking about for some time now? What was that like?
Oh, yeah. Getting my first England vest was like Christmas, oh, this is brilliant. That's what I always wanted when I'd started back training, and I thought, I'm getting fitter again after the accident. I thought, well, maybe this isn't out of my reach. And Mike had always encouraged me and said, I think this is something you should really think about. Like, I think it's definitely on the table. So, and then obviously he was messaging to try and get me there. So, getting it was a huge honour. I was really proud, really excited to race. And then I think when you get it, you doing that race, it's just, you have that extra confidence, and you're like, oh, I'm running for England. This must mean I'm pretty good. So maybe I'm going to run faster, and I'm just going to go for it. And maybe I took a few more gambles in races, pushed harder to see if I could.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And yeah, I think it really gave me the confidence to run better, to try for it, just to give it a go. What have you got to lose?
It's good that it had that effect and you took it so positively, because for some people, they get the vest and it can add a lot of pressure. They can be extremely nervous on that start line because all of a sudden, well, it's a huge thing. Now I'm running for my country. I'm in an England vest. Oh, God. And it kind of gets them a bit. But it sounds like for you, actually almost confirmed your suspicions that, I think I'm pretty good at this sport. And so you actually ran perhaps even better because of it?
Yeah, I think so. Mike always said, you go to some race and you seem really nervous, and then you go to these big races that you run for England and Great Britain and you don't seem nervous. And I'm like, because I've already done the hard work. I feel like this is just the reward for what you've worked so hard for, that actually I was probably less nervous doing those races than I was doing like the British Champs or doing other track races where, you know, it was a great field and I was like, gosh, I'm not sure how confident I feel about these. These are great runners. But when you have the England or the GB vest and you feel like it just makes you feel confident. It did for me. It really helped my confidence.
So anything else is just a bonus at that point.
Absolutely. The first time I got one, I was like, I don't need to get any more. Like this is brilliant.
I can die happy now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was all I ever wanted to achieve. And I remember going to one of the races with England, and one of the managers saying, "Oh, do you think you might, be able to get that Great Britain vest? Have you thought about that?" And I was like, I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah.
But maybe.
You come into this room and they say, well, there's another door over here. Do you want to come to the next room? And
yeah.
I want to read a quote to you from an article. You were asked about some advice for runners. And you said, my advice to others would be to enjoy your running and don't be too hard on yourself. And I thought that was really interesting because when I was looking back through your career and doing a bit of research on the amazing athlete that is Claire Duck, it's very clear that there have been times, I think it's fair to say, that you have been quite hard on yourself during running. Is that just something that comes with your personality? Are you a high achiever? What is it, do you think, that has meant that at times you have been quite hard on yourself?
Yeah, I think I have high expectations. Maybe I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I like to achieve good things. Yeah, I probably was quite hard on myself, which is maybe why I told other people not to be, because it's often what you do to yourself, isn't it? But sometimes I've put myself on the line, gone for, say, a time, and then it's backfired. And
you sort of blame yourself a bit.
Yeah, and I've been really upset with myself, even though Mike's like, oh, I'm really proud of you for going for it. And I'm just like, all I could see was that I hadn't achieved what I wanted to. And I was always quite worried about what other people would think, which is what I talked about with one of the sports psychologists that I met up with during my later career. And yeah, you think, oh, they're all looking at me failing. But actually, they're probably all just there to enjoy the race and to see people compete and actually think, oh, that's really good that they've had a go at this. But the higher up I got, the more pressure I sort of put on myself to achieve more and to keep doing better. And then if things didn't go well, I was really hard on myself. But running's really up and down. Like, you don't often have that perfect race. Like, you can have many races that don't go to plan, but then that one really good race that makes up for it, and you forget about the other things. Yeah, but yeah, I was probably pretty hard on myself.
Being your own worst critic, was it something that you slowly grew out of? Did you start to manage that a bit better? And towards the later years of your career and in more recent times, have you been better at being going a bit easier on yourself?
I've always been quite hard on myself. Yeah. Working with the sports psychologist really helped me to focus on myself and what I was doing, and to manage my anxieties with racing, because the pressure often manifested itself in physical things like stitch. And people think, why do you get a stitch? You're supposed to be really fit. But I would get so tense and so nervous about things that I would cause stitches, and then the races would just go to pot, and then I would be worried that would happen again. So we tried to manage my anxieties, and especially in the last few years, I think, of competing, because I was getting older. It was, training was hard. I was still working hard, but you need more recovery time as you get a bit older, and I couldn't do as many sessions in the week, and then obviously lots of younger people coming up and other people that are coming into the sport and are running really fast, and you think, oh, maybe I'm not running as fast now, maybe I'm not doing as well, and I put pressure on myself in that way. So towards the later stages of my running, I probably did put quite a lot of pressure on myself, because I had this expectation that, oh, I should be better than this. But actually it was, you realise that the times that you run, the fast times that you do, they might be the fastest you'll ever run, but they're still really great achievements. And I think stepping out of the sport has helped me to look back and be like, yeah, that was quite good, really. I shouldn't have been so hard on myself. Like, yeah, I've run some quick times and I'm really proud of those.
On track 5,000, 15:39, 10,000, you've got the 32:51 PB. It's funny how, when you look back, you can appreciate them more. And sometimes in those moments, there are certainly moments where you go, that was fantastic. And then there's other times, exactly that. It's also, I guess, enjoying it. You have every athlete has a window that within like a 95-year life, it's a short window in which you get to have these incredible experiences. So there's an element as well of just looking around and enjoying it and being like, I'm only going to do this race in this moment, this one time. No matter how it goes, let's try to just enjoy it, and not waste it on too much negative emotion, I guess, as well. It's one of the aims.
Yeah, absolutely. I think early on when I got my England vest and when I first got my GB vest, like I said, I was... I felt like I'd achieved everything I ever wanted to. I was like, I went into the races for GB, especially like the Edinburgh race.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody really knew who I was. I was quite new into that environment, and I was just really excited to race. I was like, I can't believe it. This is so exciting. You get to go into separate places, stay with the other athletes, and then you run in such a high level race. I was just having an absolute blast, and I came third out of the whole team, out of the GB team, and I couldn't believe it, and I just had a great time. So I think remembering that you're doing it because you really love to compete and you love the sport is important. And I think I left because I probably wasn't enjoying things as much, but I also felt ready to leave. Like I felt like, I've done all I ever thought I would, and now's the time for me to change my life, to do other things with my life. It doesn't mean I wasn't ever going to run, but
to maybe refocus on some other things.
And to enjoy other things in my life. Looking back on my achievements and being proud of myself, sometimes it takes time to step out of it to really realise, that was, I'm pretty pleased with what I did. So
maybe it's a tricky question, but when you look back at the whole thing, is there anything that ever feels like it slightly got away, that maybe if things had landed a little differently, was there ever a race or a certain meddling somewhere that you ever look back and think, if everything had gone right, I could have ticked that box? Or do you feel like you literally ticked every box that you wanted to tick? Was there anything left?
Well, in terms of races, I was a little bit sad that I never won the Nationals.
Okay, yeah.
I got a second and a third.
And of course, that's going to lead you to think one place away, two places away. It's so close.
The day when I came third was the day that I thought that if there was ever a time, that would have been it.
Why? Because just how fit
I
you
was
were.
just in the shape of my life then, and I thought this would have been the time. But like you say, races don't always go exactly how you want. I mean, I'm still very proud of coming third, but that was probably a time when I thought, I could have done that. But I don't look back and think, I'm so disappointed that I didn't win the Nationals, but it would have been nice. And I always wish I'd run faster on the road. It was one discipline I could never get my head around for whatever reason. Mike couldn't understand it. He's like, I don't know why you can't run faster on the road, but I never really fulfilled my potential on the road, I don't think.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more, if you don't mind, because it is an interesting subject. For those that don't know, you have these wonderful performances cross country in the Nationals, running England, GB vests. You also do fantastically on the track. You are, of all the athletes I've ever witnessed, you do have one of the nicest running styles I've ever seen. It's extremely bouncy.
Why, thanks.
Now, whether you're welcome. Now, whether that has some reason as to why the road never happened. Maybe you don't know, but when you look back, if I ask you the question, why is it, do you think, that you never really enjoyed the road, I guess is a fair way to put it?
I find it hard to really put my finger on it. I don't know if it's because I was quite bouncy and maybe I didn't have the style for the road. I'd convinced myself in my head that I couldn't do the road. So maybe I just decided that. And
so there might have been a psychological element if you'd identified as, I'm not a road runner.
Yeah.
And maybe that somehow affected the performances.
Maybe, yeah. And I think I'd maybe got stitch in a race. I'd got myself worked up because I was like, oh, I can't do the road, but I'm going to try. And then I was always a bit like, what if I get a stitch? What if this doesn't go well? So I sort of talked myself out of it early on. I think maybe I didn't do enough races on the road.
To sort of break through that barrier.
Yeah, and maybe you just really need to do more. And I didn't do that many. I didn't do many 10Ks in a year. I didn't do that many 5Ks. I think when I was running my best, there wasn't as many opportunities to do many 5Ks. They were starting to develop. I think there's a lot more opportunities for people to run quick times now. So I would have liked to have run quicker, and then definitely my 10K on the road I would have liked to have run faster.
Telford was the PB with a 33:45 in 2018.
Yeah, I still wasn't particularly happy with that. I think I'd got stitched in that race, managed to get through to the end, but I was that didn't go as well as I'd hoped. I think I set off too quick as well. With track, I think it's quite easy to pace because you have laps. So you're like, right, I'm on this pace. Whereas the road, I was like, well, I don't know where a lap is. And yeah, I could use my watch, but it wasn't like, oh, I can see it. So maybe because I couldn't manage my pacing as well, I was like, I just can't do the road. So I've decided I can't. So I do wish I'd done more on the road and maybe gone quicker.
There's absolutely no shame in that. You are someone who did fantastically well on the track, fantastically well in cross country. There's no law that says you have to go and run road as well. The fact that you didn't even touch base really with the 5K and the 10K breakthrough that much on the road, I guess that means that the words half marathon and marathon never even really entered the equation. Did you ever find yourself sitting there thinking, I wonder you just didn't even...
No. A lot of people ask you that. I mean, if you run, they
sure.
go, oh, do you do
marathon?
Of course.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Why is that? Why did it never interest you?
I just didn't want to run that distance. I was like, that's a long way.
It's a huge way. When you think about it, it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking when I was doing 1500s, 5K is a long way. But then I was like, oh, 5K is not that long now. And then 10K on the track. But then I just never had the inclination to do a half or a marathon. I didn't want to. And I think you'd have to really want to put that much into the training. I like to run quick, but I didn't want to run for that length of time. It's just, I think that's all it is.
Yeah,
fair. never really interested me.
It's completely fair. We've talked about maybe not regrets, but things that might have slipped away. We've talked about the low moment of the accident. Flipping that to the other side, if I could ask you between getting first England vest, first GB vest, a certain race, a certain PB, maybe just getting back from the accident, is there one of those moments you could say is the career highlight?
It might seem odd that it's not like a GB or an England vest. I think getting my GB vest was an incredible moment and I was really proud of that. But one of the things I always wanted to do was win the Northerns. And that might sound, oh, well, that's not like an international race, but I always wanted to win that. And to win it twice, I was really proud of that. I think that was sort of the time when the first time I won, I was not expecting to. And I didn't go into that race thinking I could win this. So
it's a surprise as well.
To win that, and yeah, that was a surprise. Always be really proud of that.
Well, Claire, I think there's a lot you can be proud of in your career. It's been an amazing thing to observe, even just looking back at some of the articles, etc. There's so much to be impressed by. The times are fantastic. The cross-country career, to me, is in particular the standout. I think there's a beauty to cross-country that people often don't understand. The grit, the mud, those winters in the fields. Like, people don't understand the savagery that is cross-country. So I think you've got a lot to be proud of. And I think if you do decide to come back at all to any level of fitness, it'd be fascinating to see you back out there. Claire, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We've had a big update of the high-quality, durable and bright orange Jog On running kit, which you can find at thisisjogon.com, as well as our easy-to-use, effective training plans to get you your next personal best at 5K, 10K or half marathon. Head to thisisjogon.com. Thank you. I'm Harry Morgan. go for that run. And this is Jog On.